Our next talk is by somebody who many of you know because he has had the opportunity to travel around the world and has become one of the best teachers of coral reef restoration, and one of the most humble people you will meet as well. Phanor, Montoya, who was a former director of Corals de Paz in Colombia and is currently the restoration program manager for the Coral Restoration Foundation, one of our monitoring working group chairs, and a strong supporter of the CRC and the restoration community from the beginning, a true pioneer in the space, and as I said, an amazing teacher. So Phanor, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? I need to be honest with you, I'm really stressed and so if I had a stretch fight, see, already screwed up. Because this is really big for me. 4 years ago, I was here, white shirt, jeans, right? So I tried to restore that image. Speaking on behalf of 4 organizations and sharing what I call larger is better. And it was an example of how we scale up efforts in Colombia, specifically in an archipelago called San Andres, Providencia, and Santa Catalina. Back then, it was 13,000 corals, 8,000 of those we were planning to outplant. We have 23 people trained. It was a really success. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of the government of Colombia, the Minister of Environment, on behalf of 19 different partners, on behalf of people who started with me and today have their own organization. So I'm very honored to represent you, and sorry if I don't represent you well, okay? I'm gonna bring you Colombia here, right? If you wanna stand up and enjoy the music that is coming, to show you a video that represents the project that I'm gonna talk about, but also includes another project on mangroves because of the ecosystem mosaic that we have and that is so important, for connectivity from the mangrove to the reefs. Alex, thank you. The dance classes, you need to ask several Colombians that are here, and Puerto Ricans that actually did. 1 million corals for 1 million corals for Colombia. It's a project, the result of that project that I presented in 2018. The idea is to grow 1 million corals across Colombia, initially in 11 areas, right? That done by the Minister of Environment and all those organizations that you see there. So, because we didn't want to have one organization to sticking out more than the other one, the first task that we did was to identify a logo that will represent everyone. That's why you have that little heart over there. So every time that you see that logo in any publication or communication, is representing all those organizations here. We have several of those here in the audience. Thank you very much for coming to Reef Futures. Pacific and Caribbean started in September last year. It hasn't been easy. I made a lot of mistakes with larger is better, and apologize to those who I raised their expectations, you know, that they're gonna get jobs and do a lot of stuff, and I didn't accomplish that on those 5 years. I did my best. We failed sometimes, but at least today you have the momentum going and the funding to do it on your own. 4 regional environmental authorities are involved in this project. 5 marine protected area and coastal areas are where we're doing coral reef restoration. We have trained 200, that's more than that, 202 coral gardeners. We developed a program. You're gonna see one of those presentations in I think it's tomorrow, if it happens tomorrow, by Andrea Caicedo that is here. We have about 19 local restoration technicians, members of the community. I'm talking about fishermen, right? A student from university, from masters to actually technicians or people who were into tourism. We have the private sector, so we also have our restoration economy going at a very small scale, and I hope it improves. But more importantly, to me, is that we have 18 community or partners, organizations involved today receiving funding. There's complaint that there is not enough, right? But still, there is funding for materials, a team of 4 people, and operations to grow their corals. With that effort, we increase to 15 areas. We have 34 species of hard corals from the Caribbean and the Pacific together growing in these nurseries, and following Ileana Bound's recommendation for genetic population genetics, we have about 1,000 of putative genotype of these different species. Those nurseries have become pretty much gene banks of all the genetic diversity that we have across the country. From January to today, all the partners have grown a total of 500,000 corals, so we are halfway still to do. Some started to outplant, which wasn't part of the first phase of the project, but they are already starting to outplant. And when we started, it was 2 nurseries, rope nurseries and table nurseries. But as you already know, it's about location, location, and location, so we started to modify it. They came up with new ideas, and now there's like 17 different nursery designs, and so far we have 92% survival. And those are the nurseries. Some will say that thing works, that looks like those electrical cables, in those highly dense areas. And I was very critical of that. It works for them, for the conditions, and they're growing the corals there, right? And you have the trees and the large scale rope nurseries as well. They started to implement, and what I love of my country is that you give them an idea or a problem, and they come and solve it. And that's all across Latin America. And with the reef spiders, the reef spider they're gonna hear now, they saw it on a video that we share, and they started their own. Didn't work the first time, and we managed to connect them to the Mars team, and now they improved the technique, the design, and they're doing it now. So different structures that are being tested. The one in the middle is in the Pacific, because no other thing worked there, and they're growing the corals, right? Good. We doing a lot of microfragmentation. Every single of the 19 partners got a wet bandsaw so that they can microfragment corals. Some of those too. We have a problem in Colombia, a lot of sedimentation. So talking to David Gulko, and this is the beauty of these events, that you hear and listen of all the ways to do this. You know, he came up with these pyramid-shaped things to avoid sedimentation. There is a problem in Hawaii. So I went back to Colombia and said, we can implement that, develop those pyramids to reduce sedimentation problems. And the corals are growing fine. So that's very exciting. As I said, lots of lessons learned. The first one is that, and this one took me a while to understand, and that's we need the government involved. This needs to be public policy. Restoration has to be incorporated within the government. Without their support, it's going to be very difficult. It becomes very political, but nothing we can do about it. Understand restoration as a social and environmental process. As Scott Winter said, it's about people at the end of the day. What we do is an opportunity to promote equity and access to resources. Okay? Keep that in mind, because then they can engage, right? And they will help us guarantee that we're going to have some success here in the process. Incorporate local ecological knowledge. People on the ground know their stuff. They may not go to school, but they definitely know the reefs. And the last one is, if we don't take climate action and control local impacts, we're going to have it very difficult. With that, I'm going to finish. Thank you very much for your time. Tom, Scott, Jessica, thank you very much for the opportunity that you're giving me today to work on Florida. Sarah, I hope we help you, restore the reefs in Florida, or at least rehabilitate them. Thank you very much.